State Senator Christine Drazan, thank you for coming here. You had a big announcement on Monday that you are running for governor again. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited to be in the fight again.
Was there one issue or many that caused you to say, I'm going to get in this again?
There's no doubt that the issue of decline has been one that is just not good enough for Oregonians. When I look at leadership, and that's really what the governor's office represents, you set a vision. You say we are ambitious for the common good. We are not ambitious for party, we're ambitious for Oregon. And Tina Kotek has been really, really aimless. She hasn't been ambitious, she's been aimless. And Oregon has been dead last in categories that should offend us, should shock our sensibilities. And I am committed to ensuring that Oregon is not dead last, but instead Oregon is the #1 place in the nation to raise a family, the #1 place in the nation to start a business, to grow a business, to get a world-class education. I think we have got to return to this idea that Oregonians themselves are worthy of our highest and best ambition for them and for our state. And that is the exact opposite of what Tina Kotek did throughout her first term in office.
Oregon, tough place to win if you're a Republican running for governor.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the 80s, the last time that Katu won. You came within 4 points of Governor Kotek last time. How do you think you can get over that this time?
I think it's really important to recognize that I'm not running for a party to lose. I'm not running for Tina Kotek to lose this race. I'm running because I want Oregonians to win. I want Oregonians to be the ones that feel like on election night that they're getting the kind of leadership that they deserve. And so for me, I'm not re-litigating the past race. I'm not looking back. I'm looking only ahead.
Yeah, and of course we should mention it as well. Governor Kotek has not announced whether she's running again at this point. We'll see what happens there. But given the large number of Democrats registered to vote in Multnomah County, Portland voters may be one of your toughest obstacles. You know that. Multnomah County has 286,000 registered Democrats, 57,000 Republicans, 190,000 non-affiliated voters. What's your strategy to get the votes you need in Multnomah County?
Here's how I look at our state. I am fighting for the future of all Oregonians, regardless of where you live, regardless of how you're registered, regardless of how you voted in the past. I don't care. I want the state to get better. And an area that needs leadership so desperately is the metro area. It is Portland. You know, driving to the studio today, you know, you continue to see homeless people actively using drugs on our streets in plain sight. All of it is the same as it has been now for, 4 years. And it is time even for the metro area to actually get better than they're getting from their leaders. And so I'm going to make the case, and I'm going to be in living rooms and community meetings and have conversations with people that live throughout this region, saying, what kind of future do you want for your family? Because I want your hopes and dreams to be ones that I care about. I want to advance your hopes and dreams. I don't want to insist that any one particular person lives any one way. I want people to have the future they choose. I just want government to stop getting in the way. And if you look at our economy right now, job losses in the private sector are equivalent to the recession in 08 and 09. And so families, we know affordability continues to be a huge issue, but people are losing their jobs. And so on the streets, we see there's been no improvement. But if family budgets continue to struggle, then you're going to have people that won't have any choice but to leave our state. So I want people in the metro area to know I care about their success. I want them to have the kind of community that they can be proud of, that they are thrilled every single day to wake up in Portland and live here and go to school here and go to work here. And that instead of saying, when you travel saying I'm from Oregon, you can again say I'm from Portland. And I am anxious to get to work to begin having those conversations.
There's certainly an anti-Trump feel in the air in portions of Oregon, you know that, particularly surrounding the ICE issue. And Portland has come under fire from President Trump recently. He said the city is essentially a war zone. There are fires all over the place. Do you agree with his criticism of Portland?
I think that if you're living in a spot where the police aren't intervening for you, you are living in a war zone. And certainly the neighbors across the street from ICE, when they brought their lawsuit, their claims were shocking for what they were having to live through all the way back since June. I think for the rest of our city, thankfully, we are not living in constant protests everywhere across Portland. That's not the day-to-day experience for all Portlanders. But if you're in a hot spot and the leadership of this city is turning a blind eye to your plight, then you're feeling like you want to raise your hand and ask for somebody to come help save the day for you. But I think it's high time that our leaders in the city of Portland, and in particular, the mayor, I'm anxious for him to succeed in his new role. I don't want him to fail. I think a lot's riding on his shoulders. But he cannot act like he can ignore a neighborhood just because it's tied to a political hotspot. You can't say, stand down and observe, what happens, happens, because we're protesting. At some point, is it an encampment or is it a protest? If it's a protest, God bless. If it's an encampment, you get in there and you ensure that the encampment's cleared so the community members can get to their homes, they can drive in, they can come and go, and you make sure that it's not violent. And so I think that the mayor and the chief of police have certainly made the decision to pay more attention to that neighborhood in particular. I think it has helped the people in that neighborhood. It's still not perfect, but it's better than it was. From June to September, they just raised their hands up in the air and they did not engage fully like they should have. So I don't believe that Portland itself is a war zone. I do believe that people that are living in areas that their leaders are failing them deserve to have relief from that.
Do you believe that Title X should be invoked here?
So here's what I would say. I would say that as long as the police and the mayor do their job, that this should all resolve itself. And I really believe that the ICE facility itself, it serves immigrants. Immigrants have appointments in that building. And when the police don't make it possible for people to come and go, then they're not getting their services. And certainly federal agents deserve to work in an environment where they are also safe and where if they call for the police, and we're not talking about immigration enforcement, we're talking about crime, public safety, that if they call for help, the police need to respond. That's very different than organ sanctuary state laws. And we should make that distinction known. I mean, the public shouldn't be confused about what is being asked of the chief of police in the city of Portland. He's not being asked to ignore organ sanctuary state laws. He's being asked to partner with federal law enforcement to make sure crimes aren't committed.
Should the National Guard be deployed in Portland?
I think I already touched on that one.
Yeah.
That I really believe that as long as the chief of police and the mayor do their job, that is not an extraordinary measure that would need to be undertaken. And I think it's really important that we don't continue to stir that pot for Portlanders. That creates the kind of anxiety that we need to move away from. What we need to move toward is an expectation that we're going to have safe streets, that we're going to have a growing and thriving economy, that our schools are going to be among the best in the world, and that there are going to be great jobs in Portland, innovation, small business growth, for the businesses that are here, that they choose to stay here and grow here, not go to Nevada, not go to Arizona or Ohio, but that instead they choose to invest in the state of Oregon. I think the more we focus on division, the less opportunity we have to come together on those larger problems that we really can't solve unless we do reach across the aisle and work together. Have
you visited an ICE facility, or do you plan on visiting it at any point?
I have planned to visit the facility, and so we'll see when that comes together.
Okay. Do you think President Trump's criticism of Portland will hurt you as you run for office right now?
I think the more conversations I have that are about Oregonians themselves, that's what my campaign's about. My campaign is about Oregonians, it's for Oregonians, it's about Oregonians, it's about the state. Not some guy that's across the nation living on Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm much more concerned about Main Street than I am Washington, D.C., and I hope that people across Oregon will agree that the problems that we have were created by the leaders that are in office right now. So you cannot set the fire and then say you're going to come and put it out, and that's exactly what Tina Kotek has been doing. She was Speaker of the House for a decade before she became governor, for more than a decade before she became governor, and now she has tried to convince people that she's going to be the one to solve the problems that she created. You know, our tent cities are the creation of Tina Kotek. It was her bill that created tent cities in Portland. We have got to repeal her legislation. I've had legislation to repeal it every year that I've been in the legislature. And we are not going to successfully respond to our homeless crisis unless we do two things. First, we have to recognize that it is a crisis of addiction, and it is a crisis of our own making with state laws. And so we've got to reverse course on the legislation that allows people to sleep on our sidewalks, and we have got to recognize that homelessness isn't strictly a housing issue. We have got to recognize that it's an addiction issue. I was watching someone's reporting of a group of people that were actively doing drugs next to a school. And the person was saying, "You can't do drugs here, you're in a school zone." And the response from this group of men was, "We're on a public sidewalk. We can be here. You know, get out of our face." That's hard to wrap your head around. That is, in fact, the expectation from the community that is living on our streets, and not just living there out of need, but living there out of choice. They're choosing to be there because they can actively use drugs in public spaces. That's not okay. It's got to change. This is Tina Kotek's leadership, and it's time for it to end.
Obviously, a clash going on right now between the White House and the state of Oregon.
Which you're enjoying, I take it?
Well, not necessarily enjoying. We're definitely reporting on it,
Yeah.
that's for sure. You as governor, how would you handle that?
Well, here's the thing. I am here to serve Oregonians. I'm here to stand up for Oregon and lead our state out of what I'm sure you share this view. We're facing decline. We can solve it. We can solve the issues that we are experiencing as Oregonians. They don't have to overtake us. We can come out of this. And so when it comes to the federal administration, I think that there must be opportunities to assert Oregon's strength and for us to be a state that can carry its own weight and defend its own people, and that we can build our economy, and that we can be less dependent on the federal government, more dependent on our own tax revenues and our own resources locally. Oregon is more dependent on federal money than a lot of states across the nation. We have made the decision to go chasing federal dollars. Instead of growing our own economy, our leaders have allowed our economy to shrink. Our leaders have decided that we don't care about businesses, because if you are a business in Oregon, to some of our leaders, that's like a dirty word. It shouldn't be. It is economic activity that funds public services. That's the connection that's always been there. We get tax revenues, we do good things, we provide a social safety net for Oregonians. If those tax revenues decline, if we see our workforce in particular, because we're an income tax-based state, if we see that continue to constrict, it absolutely affects our ability to support Oregonians and provide services. It will affect schools. Excuse me, that's what the water was for. It will affect schools.
You go ahead and take a sip.
I know,
if you
I've
want.
been talking
you
too
absolutely
much.
Feel free. You've had a busy day.
I have had a busy day.
You go ahead and take a sip.
But
While
we
you're
have
doing
to support businesses.
And I understand that. I want to talk about the transportation bill that has
Gotcha.
been so controversial.
Yeah.
Certainly in recent months. As governor, how would you have handled that differently?
There is no universe where we had to raise taxes on Oregonians to solve that problem. That's what I would have done differently. As the leader of my own caucus in that legislative session, I worked with our agency, I worked with our nonpartisan staff, and we established and developed a proposal which would have balanced the state's budget, kept workers to clear our roads, to fill our potholes, to stripe, to do all of the safety and maintenance work, kept our full employment that we need so much to keep us safe in the winter, and not raise taxes. And you do it by prioritizing existing revenues. We asked the agency and we said, what's core function, what's non-core function? And they gave us a packet of information on that, which was program after program after program that had more to do with convening and establishing a political agenda than providing safe, reliable roads for the citizens of Oregon. And so we took from that list and we said, we would cut this, we would cut this, we would cut this, because when you can't afford it, you have to stop doing it. And if times were flush, if we had all the money that we needed to do all those programs, they are nice to do, they are not essential. And if they're not essential right now, given our economy, Given the state of Oregonians' family budgets, we should ask our agencies to do more with less and, frankly, to tighten their belt. And so as governor, I would demand that my agencies worked within their means, provided core functions and priority essential services to Oregonians before asking Oregonians for more. Had that package balanced those needs, Oregonians with state government, there was absolutely a way to move forward and to have a bipartisan solution at the end of that session. And instead, the governor decided to raise taxes. And I am anxious for her to sign that bill. I think Oregonians deserve access to democracy. And she is disenfranchising Oregonians right now, today, by not signing the transportation bill.
She has until November 12th
She has lots of times.
And so there's some folks, some Republican leaders, saying that she's not going to sign it. So you folks don't have enough chance to get out there, collect the signatures, then get it on the ballot. Do you agree that's what's happening there?
Oh, she's gaming the system like nobody's business. And what she's doing is wrong. If she believes in her leadership, she should let it withstand the scrutiny of Oregonians. She should not be afraid of Oregonians themselves. She is acting like she's an entitled dictator right now. She has her money, she has her tax. She is trying to game the system so that there's not time to get the signatures and Oregonians won't have their final say. If Oregonians agree with her leadership, then she should not be afraid of them putting this on the ballot.
She's afraid they'll vote no on it? Is
Yeah.
that the concern that you feel?
Guaranteed, she has got to know that Oregonians cannot afford these new taxes and they won't support them because they can't afford them.
Biggest issue right now facing Oregonians. What is the biggest issue? How will you address it?
It's affordability. It's affordability and it's quality of life. We can address it. Oregon government, politicians, and bureaucrats created this problem for us. This is homegrown. These are homegrown, out of control costs. And so that means we have got to cut taxes, cut fees, make it less expensive to live here. That's within our control, and we must do that. And when Oregonians get their footing again, when jobs are growing, when the economy expands, then we can have conversations about what the nice things are to have. And we can begin to go down that list. But right now, we should be doing essential services. Government should have hard edges. Government cannot be all things to all people. We just can't afford to pay for that. Oregonians cannot afford to pay for that. So we have got to address affordability for them and not assume that they can always afford to pay for more and more and more. So that's number one. And we have got to grow jobs here. It's funny, I talk to people all the time in the business community. Somebody told me that they needed a permit to put windows in a building. It took a year for them to get a permit to put windows in a building. How is that even possible? How do businesses function? How does our economy churn when the bureaucratic state doesn't work with anyone to expedite anything? And they take their own sweet time. It's inefficient, it's expensive, it's counterproductive, and people just say, listen, this project was too hard to do in Oregon. I can do it in half the time at half the cost in Texas. I can do it in half the time at half the cost in Arizona or Nevada. I'm not growing here. I'm growing somewhere else. That kills our state. We cannot have the things that we need. We cannot support a world-class education. We cannot support strong streets and safe communities if we don't have a tax base. So these two things work together, but we have got to get this straight. We have got to control costs on Oregonians, and we have got to support growth in our economy.
I want to talk about the federal government shutdown. And again, we are recording this on Monday, the 27th of October. So maybe by the time this runs, this thing will be over.
Yes.
But
Let's hope.
if it isn't, food assistance benefits through SNAP will be gone on November 1st. And that affects hundreds of thousands of Oregonians. What should the governor of Oregon do to address that issue?
Yeah, the governor should tell Merkley to stop grandstanding and pass the continuing resolution. It's a clean continuing resolution. There's no poison pills in there. Just extend it so people can get their benefits. This is on the backs of Democrat senators. This is their fault.
And of course, they're blaming Republicans. We
Of
just had
course they
Merkley
are.
on Friday, so they say it's Republicans' fault.
How is that possible? when it's Democrats that are refusing to vote for the resolution. Republicans are all willing to vote for this resolution. They did it in the House. They're going to do it in the Senate. It is the Democrat senators. It's Oregon senators. Let me be clear. This is Merkley. This is Wyden that are choosing to deny Oregonians access to their benefits. It's political gamesmanship at its worst. And there is no space for this right now. They have got to pass this resolution.
Running for governor is a huge undertaking.
Tell me about
it.
it.
Are you prepared for this road ahead? It's going to be a tough one. You know that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's such a privilege. It's such a privilege to be able to hear the hopes and dreams of Oregonians and make them my own. And say, I see what you see, and I care about what you care about. I see your daughters. I see your sons. I see the future that you want for them. I see the future you want for yourself. Let's make that happen together. And there is no greater privilege than to raise your hand and say, I am willing to serve others with everything I've got, with every resource available to me, and I am going to fight to have the privilege of serving this state. You
hearing from some of your folks in your party encouraging you to run?
Yeah, there was a bit of pressure to make this decision, and I am grateful that people are optimistic about the future. That shows that they believe in the future of our state, that they are staying, they're willing to fight, and they are willing to work, because that's really what this is. This is a very long job interview, and along the way we're going to need a lot more friends and a lot more partners in this work to say that the vision for the future of our state can be better. This is not about partisanship. This is not about party. This is about making sure that Oregonians themselves have a better future, and there are a lot of folks that believe in that vision.
Is there anything that Governor Kotek has done well?
You know, I appreciate that question. I think that her kind of marquee issue set of housing was something that I know she worked really hard on. And in this most recent legislative session, we had a few pieces of legislation that were bipartisan that dealt with some of the regulatory challenges that would slow down housing in the private sector. But the reality of why she has failed so abysmally on her #1 priority is because she thinks government is the answer to everything. And so her answer is to raise taxes. Her answer is to add regulations. Her answer is to add mandates. The real solution to hitting those goals, that $36,000 a year, is to stop driving people out of our state. The real solution is to reduce taxes, reduce regulations, and increase and improve the business environment so the private sector wants to build homes here and create pathways for them to actually be able to expedite that and to get that done quickly. That is just not in her DNA. That is just not her philosophical approach to leadership. Is not inclined to freedom. It's inclined to control. And I think that that's really what has prevented her from being effective there. I absolutely believe that she sees the need for that. I absolutely believe that that is something she's committed to. I just think she's doing the best she can, and that this is the best she can do, and that she is not the right person for this time.
It may well be the two of you again facing off. You ready for that?
I look forward to it.
State Senator Christine Drazan running for governor, Republican Party. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Steve.